Hey everybody, welcome to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And tonight we're welcoming back Anthony I can never say your damn name. Esemplare.
Yes,
Esemplare.
perfect.
Okay. From Unidentified S4. And we're going to be talking with him a little bit about the famous or infamous, as you will, Betty and Barney Hill case. But before we get into that, first of all, I want to say, Anthony, thanks again for being here.
Always a pleasure.
I heard you got in a little hot water with Twitter.
Yes, unfortunately. I ended up having a fight with Lou Elizondo's sock puppet, that Richard Butt guy. And, he tried to play it off like, it wasn't Lou, but we all know who it is. And
Right.
he was, being very aggressive with Lynn and Akashi Chris, and I didn't like it, and I basically let the guy have it, and then he punked out and went and ratted me out to Twitter that I used threatening language towards him. Basically, it was just like, "Go get a life, you're an effing moron" type stuff, and then that was it. I was banned from Twitter for life for threatening violence. They said
for life.
For life. Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
Life.
Oh my God.
Suspended for life.
Again, that's why I don't do Twitter. I don't do UFO Twitter or UAP Twitter or anything. I just stay away from Twitter. They seem to be more trouble than they're worth. They really do.
To be very honest with you, primarily I only use Twitter to use it as a second stream for the show to air on. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can have the show go on, plus YouTube. So I just thought it was another good way to get the show out there. Primarily, I only went on to post my show link for the upcoming show. Is all post some cool UFO videos. I never really commiserated with anybody unless I knew them. And then that guy came out of nowhere. He was threatening the ladies in our groups that we hang out with, that have become friends, that we go on their shows and co-host with from time to. And I just wasn't going to have somebody talking to a woman like that, because that's just how I'm built. And I gave him a piece of my mind as a man, and then he ran away like a little chicken and ratted me out to Twitter. They could dish it, but they can't take it, so to speak. But that was probably his angle, was probably to get me pissed off and come after him and then report me. But big deal.
It's not the first time he's done that kind of stuff.
No, it's like a nonstop thing with this guy. Nonstop.
I would try
Save the drama for your mama.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean,
I don't know what good that's going to do, trying to fight it. But
who fights with women? I mean, give me a break. Starting verbal confrontation with women. Calling them all kinds of names. Oh my! If I would have disrespected a woman like that, my father would have broke both my legs. That's the truth.
Right?
Yep.
Seriously. So, before we get into the whole Betty and Barney Hill thing, I have a question. Does a hoax begin its life at the moment of conception? So here's what I'm getting at here. I have nothing but respect for Third Phase of Moon. And yet people are always calling them hoaxers. And they're not hoaxers. they get a video from one of their viewers and they try to vet it as best they can, but then they show it on their show and they ask their viewers, what do you think? And then they give their opinions about it. It's not as though they are the ones creating the video. Now, if they were, I can see how people would say that they're hoaxers, but they're not. They're
Right.
presenters.
Exactly.
That's all they are. So why do people continually call them out as hoaxers?
I mean, I'm good friends with Third Phase of Moon, as you know. I was just on the live the other night with Blake. We went over some footage live together, and I mean, I thought that was great. The footage came in right there on the spot. You know, I thought something was birds. I said it right there. He agreed with me. So, I mean, from that
I
perspective,
saw that. Yeah.
great, right? Allowing that on a channel, on a platform with 800,000 followers, right? That you can have the opportunity to speak your mind, right? They didn't tell me beforehand this is going to be scripted or anything. Just whatever you see, spit it out and let's go with it. This is in real time, is how it was presented to me to speak. And I can see where some people are coming from. I could see back in the past, you know, Rich has brought up in the past, yeah, right. Maybe when they first got started on YouTube, it was like the Wild West. Maybe they put up some hokey footage or said they were in one location when they were in another. But, you know, it was like they say, it was the Wild West back then on YouTube. People were putting up everything to get clicks and views. And then I found one video, and Cambian found the same video of that triangle UFO in the woods in Czechoslovakia, wherever it was, and Steven did a deep dive on it, and apparently it was like a deer blind in the woods. All right, well, nobody really knows how that footage got to Third Phase of Moon to begin with. Nobody knows who from out in the field sent it to them and presented it to them as an actual TR3B triangle, right? Nobody knows how that happened. You know, so anybody could say they stole the footage and recreated it to their liking and then took it down when asked. Who the hell knows? None of us know how it was presented to them, right? So as far as I know, the past 8 to 10 years that they're on, their footage has been great. I mean, look at their numbers, and everybody flocks to them as soon as they come on. They're like one of the biggest sources for UFO footage out there. We all take our lead from them. And every now and then, a bad piece of footage is going to get thrown into the mix. And when you're taking footage from the community and putting it up there for us to judge it, you can't knock them for showing it. That's how I look at it.
Right.
It's there for us to judge,
Right,
just like
because
you
they're
said.
asking.
Right. It's there for us to judge. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and you could say
this is for a fact.
Right.
You could say that, I mean, feasibly, you could say, well, they're just perpetuating the hoax. And I don't believe that to be true, because if you ever watch these videos that they present, they do exactly what I said. They give their opinion about it, and then they say to the audience, what do you think?
Exactly.
And if they think that it may be hoaxed, they'll say so.
Right. Just like the other night when I was on with Blake, we were live in real time. You know, this is something new that Third Phase is putting out now. They're going to get footage is going to come in. They're going to hop on, do a live, and then they're going to allow the public to join them to speak their mind. And as I was telling him, you know, this looks like it could be birds. It looks like the Apaches on the helipad. They're aiming the camera equipment at the horizon. I don't know, 810 Warthogs. I never flew one, but I don't think they would fly that close to each other where they're almost on that collision, you know, course with each other. For me, that I'm out in the field doing this almost 7 days a week for the past God only knows how many years, it looks like birds. And the minute I said that, he's like, oh, let's nail it, put a nail in the coffin on this one because it looks like birds to me too. He agreed. Now, if he was looking to perpetuate a hoax, I think he would have said, no, come on, let's look at this again. It kind of looks like UFOs to me. A hoaxer would have did that and try to change my mind on it, right? I don't think he would agree with me and say, no, you know what, it is birds or whatever.
Speaking of that,
They
viewers, if you don't know this, Third Phase of Moon is doing a live show now. I'm not sure how often they're doing it, but I do know that they're doing it at like midnight Eastern time.
Right.
And
Yeah, we
so,
were right around there, right around midnight my time. Yeah.
yeah, 9 p.m. Pacific. So most definitely check that. Anthony, do you happen to know how often they're doing this?
I believe it's going to be once a week. They're going to try to do
Okay.
it. I think that's what he said. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong. I know he mentioned it the night I was on the video. The thumbnail was the alien. I know it's mentioned in there, maybe at like the 30-minute mark. Uh, I would go check the video out again to get a definite. I think he said they're going to try to hop on once a week and do it, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's
That would be
great.
great, right? And then you have your community come hop on with you on the live and speak their piece about what they think. I mean, look, what else can they really do to prove that they're moving forward from the past and getting with the future and trying to, show you we get this in real time and this is what it is. We take it for what it is and then we show it. Sometimes we don't vet it, we do it in real time. I don't know what else they got to do. Put a banner up
I don't know what else they could do, honestly, because I mean, people in the UFO community hold a lot of grudges, and they don't let it go, you know. And so, I mean, this stuff that actually did happen with them happened years ago,
Right.
and they haven't been like that since. In fact, as far as I know, they took those videos down. I mean, what bigger form of apology do you need? You know?
Believe me, I looked at the footage that Steven put up. I found that video on YouTube with that triangle in the woods. So I know it very well. But who knows if the guy from the Czech Republic has a grudge against Third Phase of Moon and he's making up a story that they took it from him. It's his deer blind footage. Why did that guy have it posted up as a TR3B to begin with if it was
No.
just a deer stand? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
you're getting one side from one guy that you don't know, and then you're getting another side from Third Phase of Moon that we all know. So, I'm going to give them the credibility and I have to, they're a credible source, and a bad apple gets in every now and then, I'm sure that I've had videos sent to me that were no good and I didn't put them up because they look like CGI crap or there was no information to go with it. But these guys are doing it in real time. It's not easy doing it in real time. You're getting a video sent to your email box, you're throwing it up, sharing your screen once you put it in your downloads and you're showing it there live, on the fly half the time. That's not easy to figure out right there, before you go on. Is it real? Is it not? That's why they leave it up to the public.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Helen Crystal Energy has just said that the bitching in the community is tiring.
It
And I
really
have
is.
to agree with her totally.
It really
sure
is.
is. I'm done with it.
And there's so much of that in the community. And
I feel like, Damon, I have a permanent migraine from it. Literally. I really feel like my head is swollen from listening to it constantly. It's like enough already. If you don't enjoy somebody's channel, if you don't enjoy the content that they're putting out, don't turn on the goddamn channel and watch it.
right.
Go to another channel, right? There's
Exactly.
no sense about making a whole show about somebody else's channel and bashing them. If you don't like them, don't watch it. Or talk behind the scenes off camera about it, right or wrong. If you got a problem with somebody, reach out behind the scenes. I don't know. I think calling somebody out like that is wrong. I think putting it up and bashing somebody like that is wrong. I don't do it. And I'm not saying anybody else doing it is right or wrong. I just don't approve of it myself. It's not my cup of coffee. For me, I like to be friends with everybody. That's just how I am. And if there's something that they have that I don't like, I won't show it or talk about it. And I'll just keep moving. That's it. How hard is that, right? Then everybody remains friends. You can be social when you see each other. And if you don't like each other, you don't watch each other's channels. You don't have to interact in that way. But you can still remain cordial behind the scenes.
Giordano and Cambion just had a huge falling out. They've been friends for years.
Dead.
It's dead. Yeah.
And I love Steven's work. I think he's a phenomenal searcher for truth, right? But not against your friends, man. That's a low blow.
Keep it to yourself, or like you said, keep it on the down low between each other.
Or if you have footage and that TR3B footage that Steven put up is well known. I seen it myself, and he and I talked about that ourselves. I couldn't believe that footage was labeled from February of 2022. That kind of blew my mind. But you don't know what that other guy, if in fact he manipulated anything when he put it on YouTube, or it just happened to be posted on February of 2022, and the metadata comes back that video is actually 5 years old. You know, what did the metadata say on that? Did it say how old the footage was? Who the hell knows? Nobody. I didn't see any of that. So when you want to call you can't call the pot or the kettle black, whatever the terminology is, without having all the facts either. You know.
I was going to say, I'm not really familiar with Third Phase of the Moon. I've only heard of them whenever it's mentioned on this show. That's all I know about Third Phase of the Moon. But I got to say that there are some interesting things I'm taking away from this drama, which is it seems that this drama with Third Phase of the Moon, it's an image problem. It's like an image control problem. So it's like, what do people perceive you? Do they perceive you as a good or a bad? And there's two sides that are very passionate about that, defending their side. There doesn't seem to be really any middle from what I see. Now, what's interesting about that, if I take it back a step, and now we're not talking about UFO groups, we're just talking about UFOs. The same thing is happening with UFOs. You know, it's very polarized. You have your like Preston Dennett, which is like UFOs and your occupants are marvelous by and large. And then you have other people like David Jacobs. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him, but he believes they're a really evil threat. And there doesn't really seem to be much in between. So anyway, as a biologist, I always like to look at these parallels because nature does seem to copy itself at different scales. So things that might happen at a microscopic scale will also happen at a macroscopic scale, like much bigger. So it just seems that so the UFOs have an image problem themselves as well. They really do. There is nobody, I think, there is not a consensus opinion about UFOs. Some people think they're not even real. Some people think they're real. Some people think they're the worst things ever. Some people think they're saviors. That's just like kind of thoughts that I get when I'm looking at this Third Phase of the Moon.
The only thing I can't wrap my head around, though, Wild Trees, is what happened to picking up the phone and say, hey, man, that video you put up the other day was shit. That's what I think about it. Can we talk about it? Can I see how that video came about? You know, what didn't you show from that video that maybe I could see that could change my mind? You know, I don't know. I think it could just be done in a cordial way where you don't have to fight. And then, you know, chat rooms turn on each other. You know, you go to somebody's channel, you're friends with all those people from that channel for so long, and then all of a sudden the two show hosts are button heads, and then everybody separates and dips ways because now these two aren't talking. That's a shame. That's a shame to happen.
It really is.
So I think I follow other communities like the Los Angeles comedian community right now. And right now there's a lot of drama between comedians. And that drama that happens in that community, it seems very similar to the UFO community. But I got to say that one thing we need to consider with this drama is that you're right. Look, we could avoid the drama by just being more polite to each other, treating each other with more respect, handling things on a personal level before you handle them publicly. But I have to say, the drama does generate clicks. It does generate attention, and it does generate money. I'm just saying that's a fact. I don't know if anybody's trying to generate drama
It's
on purpose,
true.
but
Look what happens on a common night, right? I have like over 6,300 subs, right? On a Sunday I go on, I got 40 to 80 people, let's say, in the chat, right? Now, if I put on a show where I'm gonna attack another big show, you watch how the numbers jump. There'd be 200 plus people in there to see what the hell the drama's about. Now, are they generating that to generate those numbers bump? You know, because people can say, hey, you're saying, show A is perpetuating a hoax, but hey, show B is got a fucking bump in numbers every time you perpetuate that show A did something wrong. You know, so
I'm thinking the same thing.
It's both evil on both parts to do to each other. You know, just skip that. If you, like I said, if you don't like each other's shows, don't deal with each other. But, on air, just remain cordial. We all have our shows that we all work very hard on. It takes a long time to establish credibility. It takes a long time to build up your crowd that comes to see you every time your show's on. These are people taking time out of their busy day to come hang out with you. Maybe some of them are, like to hear the infighting, but I could tell you The vast majority don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it no more. I know you guys don't want to hear it no more. A lot of us don't want to hear it. Just end that shit already, man.
I can guarantee you one thing. That will never, ever, ever happen on Black Lotus. And I say that with full confidence. It will never happen because I don't want to perpetuate that kind of stuff.
Me either.
What we need in this community, especially among the smaller channels, is some goddamn solidarity.
Exactly
You know?
my point. You hit the nail right on the head, man.
It's just a shame that we have to. It's just a shame that we have to spend 20 minutes talking about how bad it is. That it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Even at this point, I'm at the point now where I'm like, who cares what Lou Elizondo is talking about? If we all stop watching the goddamn guy when he goes on, he's not going to be famous no more. Avoid him like the plague, and he'll go away. The same thing with Jeremy Corbell and his bullshit that he puts out. If everybody stopped running to him when he puts something up just to see what bullshit he puts up, nobody would go anymore. He wouldn't have a crowd to go perpetuate that bullshit with no more. Just avoid those people like the plague, and eventually they will disappear. That's how that works. It's because we keep running there when they got something new or say something new. We just got to hear it now because all the bullshit on everybody's channel. Every time he comes on with something new, we just got to hear what this guy's talking about next, right? If you avoid
and it's always the same old
vanish. And you never hear nothing new from the guy, right? It's always the same jumbled mess of words. It's nothing. It's babble. It's all psychobabble out of that guy's mouth. It's a waste of time and energy. And you can't fight with him because look what happens when you fight with him. You get banned from Twitter like me. So don't take it from me, man. Just stay out of it. It's annoying. It really is.
Yeah. Well, and both Cambion and Giordano both got doxxed because of it.
From each other?
No. From what I understand, minions of Elizondo.
Oh, that happened. That did happen.
So,
yep.
And Cambion was saying he was literally scared for his life and scared for his children.
I bet. Now, as a community of shows that are against that, wouldn't it be more convenient for Cambion, Richie, Third Phase of Moon to remain cordial with each other, even though they don't see the eye to eye on everything, and have each other's backs instead of being another guy that's trying to stab you in the back? Team up so we can all go against the real evil that's out there. These people trying to come in. I mean, Lou Elizondo said it himself. I'm not a ufologist. I was asked to come here and basically turn the goddamn community upside down. That's what he said he was. He was what do you call it? Was a term that he used, whatever he did for work.
Right.
Disinformant,
whatever. That's what he did. He was an interrogator or whatever, and he was asked to come here to the UFO community and bring his training and everything to this community and do that here. So what more do you need from the guy? He told you he's not a ufologist. He's got no new information to give you, and he's looking to turn everybody in this community upside down, and it's working because we're all watching this shit. So stop watching what the guy has to say. Stop listening to what he's got to say, and make him go away. Counter intel. That's it, Mark D. I couldn't think of the word. Thank you.
Yeah,
he's a
counterintelligence.
Yeah. He's bringing bullshit information into the community and making everybody fight over it. And it's working. It's working.
It's just temporary population spikes. That's all it is. Because
that's it.
You hear it so many times you don't want to hear it no more.
That's it. Eventually, this guy's going to go away. He's. You had Anjali with her bullshit. She's gone. Next, he'll be gone. It's only a matter of time, right? And you only see the other guy around, Jeremy Corbell. Every couple months when he's got another bullshit video that ends up getting debunked, right? So far, none of them are good. So why keep running back to the guy? Why keep running back to the guy? Right. Eventually, he'll vanish off too.
Crazy.
Nonsense.
So let's get into the whole Betty and Barney Hill thing.
Please, let's get into Betty and Barney
Hill. Excuse me. Viewers, if you don't know much about Betty and Barney Hill, let me give you a bit of a rundown here. So back in September, on September 19th of 1961, they were driving home from their honeymoon in Montreal As they drove through New Hampshire's White Mountains, they said they were followed by what seemed like a spotlight. Eventually, they pulled over and said they spotted a ship floating above their car. And they blacked out. When they came to, they said that their car was miles down the road and they couldn't remember the last 2 hours. When they got home, there were mysterious marks on their car, and the zipper on Betty's dress was torn and stained, and the strap on Barney's binoculars was broken. That's just the basic rundown of what happened. There's actually a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the yellow powder on her dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some people who
that were torn out.
Yeah. And there are some people who say that Barney made up the entire story. And the reason being is because they were an interracial couple, and they were being targeted by certain people. I don't buy that opinion. And the reason being is because you're talking about 1961. And no, interracial couples were not accepted. But why draw even more attention to yourself?
Right. Make it worse.
Right. And make it worse. What do you guys think?
And Barney was
the same thing.
He was an advocate
Postman.
for some group. I can't remember what
Civil
it was,
rights.
but civil rights activist. But he was like a very upstanding member of his community. He was like very well loved from his community. So I don't think they would come after him for something like that. And didn't they go do like hypnotic regression back then too? And the whole thing was recorded.
Yes.
The whole story was recorded too. And
Yeah.
he bugged out when they had him under. He was freaking out. That's what lended, that's why I always thought it was credible. If he was really under and flipping out like that, he must have been really recalling something.
And the same with Betty. She kind of did the same thing. Yeah.
Right. And then she had the star map where they found Zeta Reticuli as well that she drew. And then they ended up finding out that was an actual star system all those years later, that the map actually fit to a known star system, which was Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Which
unless
she
she was
wouldn't have known
really
about
well
before
versed, better than the NASA people back then, like how would she even know that?
I'm sorry, Kim, what did you say?
I said, yeah, she wouldn't have known that had
Right.
that not happened.
Right.
Yeah, I always found it to
Being
be.
an interracial couple. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kim. I'll go after you.
I was saying, just like we said, an interracial couple is one thing back in the 1961s. They really weren't the ones. But drawing that kind of attention really spikes it even more to bring more attention to both facts.
I was going to say that, this case is very unique for a number of reasons. First of all, I'll say non-scientifically, just in my heart, I do believe they're being genuine. I have no evidence to support that. I just look in their eyes and I think they're being genuine about what happened.
Right.
One of the interesting things about this case that's rare for an abduction case is the amount of physical evidence. That's usually lacking in modern cases. I mean, you have little things like Barney's shoes were all scuffed up because in his recollection, he was dragged on the ground, and that was why his shoes would be scuffed up. That's physical evidence. You could hold that, look at it, that shoe. Also, I think the car was tested, and it had like some magnetic field or some kind of electromagnetic field on it.
Yeah, the hood had 5 circles on it, and the circles, when a compass was brought towards it, would spin out of control.
Right.
Right. So, and then it goes on. There's a dress which had stains and it had squares. Some of saying diamonds cut out of it.
Diamonds, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a big piece of evidence. One way that I like to think about evidence, because I used to teach science in college and I used to have to explain to kids about evidence. So I'm not talking literally. This is just a way to understand what I mean by physical evidence.
Hey,
So,
Cops don't need evidence, man?
Oh, you know all about evidence. You know all about evidence. I guess we work with
We'll get
evidence a
a
lot.
Maybe
body.
not these days, but when I worked, we needed evidence.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, because I was going to use a law enforcement example. Well, basically, the example is like, let's say you go to court against someone. There was a crime committed. Well, a lot of times what wins a case is physical evidence. So think of the things you could show a jury. I'm not saying literally. I'm not saying you literally go to court. I'm just saying those are the type of objects. A bloody knife. Photographs of a scene. Bruises on a person. That's what we really need in UFO cases and abduction cases, and we don't usually get that. All we get is testimonies. All we get are words spoken by people. But the Barney Hill case is very unique because it had so much physical evidence. That doesn't happen very often. That was very unique to me. And then the other thing is that, look, a lot of this case and the fine details, they have to do with hypnotic regression. Okay. But I got to be honest with you, I don't know anything about hypnotic regression. That means that I don't know if it's legitimate. I'm not sure if it's a pseudoscience. I just don't. It could be, but I personally haven't done all the fine digging. A lot of times, if you want to find the truth, it's very doable for everybody, but it takes a lot of time and dedication and hard work. It's not easy to get the truth. It's easy to get a lie. Somebody could just tell you something. You just watch a video. But if you really want to know the truth of a subject, you have to dedicate time and critical thinking. And I have not done that for hypnotic regression. But I think if you look at the scientific community, if I'm just glancing at, the psychiatric community, I don't believe they take it seriously, or I think they're kind of waffling. So I'm just saying it's interesting that this case deals with a lot of hypnotic regression. A lot of other cases deal with hypnotic regression, but I don't have the evidence to support that as a legitimate way to get memories.
I know actual doctors do the hypnotic regression. I was just talking to that girl Savita on my show. She just had hypnotic regression for her deal, and she said it was an actual medical doctor that performed the hypnotic regression. I've thought about having it done too, but I wanted it done from not like a person that does it, like an actual doctor.
Yeah.
I would feel more comfortable having it done. But yes, doctors do hypnosis these days. It's a real thing.
And for what reasons do they do it? Do they do it to bring up memories?
Regressed memories. Now, the only problem with that is they say that even if a doctor does it, they can still put a memory in your mind and make you believe it when you're in that state. That's the problem with it. They can make you believe a falsehood when you're under that hypnotic state. That's the only problem that I see.
I also wonder, here's a question. I don't know the answer. I have no idea, but here's a question. What if I've had some really crazy dreams and I've seen some really crazy movies? Can I regress? Can he get a memory of a dream that I had and I mistake it for reality, or a movie I saw and I mistake it for reality? Carl Sagan, he believed that I saw, if you watch his old show called Cosmos, the original Cosmos with Carl Sagan, he had an episode dedicated to Betty and Barney Hill, and he did a recreation. It was really done well, like a film. But one of his arguments was that Betty and Barney Hill recently saw a movie that had little gray-like aliens and that there was an abduction or similar things happened. So Dr. Carl Sagan believes they were falsely remembering that movie. That's why I ask, I've had crazy dreams and I've seen some crazy movies. If I'm regressed, is it possible that I repeat the dream I had or the movie I saw? I don't know.
That I don't know either, and that's a very, very good question. You make a valid point there, but I do know this from law enforcement perspective. I did talk to a person that gives the polygraph, the lie detector tests. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to them on more than one occasion, and I know for a fact by somebody that had like 20-something years in the field that administered the test, said that if you can believe, he put it to me just like this, if you can believe your own bullshit good enough to regurgitate it in a way where you actually believe that you're saying it, you can pass the polygraph test.
Right, and that's what they said about the Travis Walton case, and that's how they all passed it. You know?
So I would believe that on the hypnotic regression, the same things would apply. If you can make yourself believe that something actually happened, you can probably seed that false memory into your own mind and make yourself believe it. Maybe it was somebody they were easily susceptible to believe bullshit, and they were, able to do that when they were under that hypnotic state, recall a dream or a very good movie that they've seen or whatever. Because you don't know how much it scared them or how much they enjoyed it, how much of that stood with them in their mind, to make them say it when they were in a different state of mind,
Well, and with Betty and Barney Hill, they had no reason to make this up, really.
That's another
And
thing. They were a biracial mixed race couple in the 60s. Why would they want to bring more attention on themselves? And back then, they
right,
probably would call you even more of a whack job back then for believing in UFOs and encounters like that. So why would they
Right.
want to have the whole interracial thing and then add all that on top of it?
right. And
It
it's
would
not
make
as
them
though they
more
were writing
Oh,
a
it
book
happened
about it.
pain too.
What's that?
Yeah, and the pain that was involved with what she went through as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Betty's cousin came out and said that she believed every single thing that her aunt was telling her. Was it her aunt or her niece? The
Yeah, I
lady
think it
that-
was her.
Her aunt.
Yeah,
Her niece?
her niece.
It was right. So her niece
Well-
said that she saw what it did to the family. That story, like it tore the family apart. So I mean, why would somebody do that to put their families through that too?
Right,
It's not
right,
like they
exactly.
got money out
I
of it,
don't-
anything monetary.
And
out of it
they
back
kept
then.
it to themselves for the longest time as well.
Right.
So
Another thing that I want to point out that, well, first I'm going to make an assumption, and I want to just see if you guys, because I have no evidence, but see if you guys agree with my assumption. My assumption is that even before the abduction happened, Betty and Barney Hill were under an immense amount of stress. Perhaps they were on edge just because they had an interracial marriage. I believe they were constantly hearing from family or outsiders, constantly being stressed. So I believe that lowered their mental and physical health. Do you think it's possible they had a lower physical and mental health because of their interracial relationship, or do you think perhaps that's not true?
If it
Right.
happened,
That's one of the. Go ahead.
Ralph, go ahead.
That was one of the things that people were saying, that it was because of the stress of them being an interracial couple, they imagined this whole thing.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't buy that though.
I don't either.
No.
I mean,
But do you think-
Not only
But
that,
do you
they're
think they
coming
were
off
under
of
more
a
stress?
honeymoon to start with.
Of course.
back then, yeah, of course they were under stress. I mean, even schools were segregated back then. I'm sure
Right.
kids in the neighborhood threw rocks at the house, like the black
Right.
and white couple that are married to each other lived. I can only imagine how that went down in the 60s, and that's a damn shame
Right.
that they even had to go through that. But why
My
would they
point-
want to bring more attention onto themselves?
My point wasn't really that that they faked it because of stress. My point is just that I just wanted to consider the fact. Let's get in their headspace. That's where they
Sure,
were at.
definitely.
They were the stress. The abduction is super stressful, but even before that, it sounds like they were already in a high amount of stress. So that's just an interesting thing to consider, I think.
Sure. But I know for a
Because-
fact that I've heard them talk before in other stories where they were like so in love with each other, they didn't care what others thought about. There's a lot of footage like that with them too, where you see them talking like, Barney and I love each other so much, we don't care about this or that or what they say. They were really in love with each other. He was a prominent member of his community. What was he, a mailman? Barney,
It was a
I think?
mailman, postman, yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
postman. I mean, so he was a postman. Everybody in the community probably loved him. The community he served, and then he served on all these other different boards. He had an award from the Civil Rights Committee that he worked on. I think he was given an award by Washington too once,
Was he?
Bonnie, if I'm not mistaken. So he was
Well-
like a prominent member of the community. So I don't think
I wonder if there's a connection between high stress and paranormal things, because people say that poltergeists come about when a young girl is going
You're
through puberty.
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now Damien was abducted, and he was under a high stress situation. He was homeless. He was living out of his car. That sounds similar to what Betty and Barney Hill were going through. Not the details, but just that they were living a stressful life. I just wonder if
Yeah, the
what is this
energy
connection?
level's low.
Yeah, exactly. I think there might be some kind of thing there going on there. I'm not sure if it's a correlation. I mean, a causation. I'm not sure if one is causing
Well,
the other.
I would assume that when you would be a high target value for something that poltergeist or extraterrestrial, anything out of the norm, when you're under stress and you're not at your
know what?
toughest point, you're
Yeah,
probably
that
a
makes
good
a-
target for that.
That makes sense. That's like a
Usually
wolf
susceptible to it.
pack, like a wolf
What's that?
pack picking out the weakest.
That's what they do, right?
The
Exactly.
weakest prey. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
interesting. Great point.
So probably the same thing, runs through nature that runs through people. Animals do it; they go after the weakest link.
Mhm.
People do it, and I'm sure
Yeah.
extraterrestrials, ghosts, and everything else. It's probably just a universal thing.
How would an extraterrestrial
I'm just
know
adding them in the mix.
that's having that people are having, a rough time?
Well, there's okay.
I just think
have
it's
to
kind of
monitor us.
coincidental.
Well, I if they have the technology, if they could remotely monitor our bodies, I mean, human bodies, their blood pressure is
Maybe they
different when
can
they're
see your
stressed.
aura, for all we know. They may
There's a
see a
lot of
different light spectrum.
There's a lot of physical things that happen when people are unhealthy that you could see. Like if you could take someone's blood pressure, if you could take someone's skin temperature, if you could see how much they're sweating, when they're at night, if they're snoring or they have sleep apnea. I mean, I think these are things that could be monitored from.
Sure. And how many alien abduction stories have you heard where you would take it aboard a craft and give it a full physical? Right.
That's a good point.
So maybe that's one way they can know. Maybe they gave you the physical the week before, and they're like, "Hey, we got to go back and get this guy because his stress levels are through the roof. Nobody's gonna believe him that he was abducted after we're done with him. Who the hell knows what they do? Right or wrong, though, Kim? Right? I mean, it's plausible." That guy Anthony, the retired guy? Yeah, he's on disability. That guy's fucked. Let's go get him, because even his wife don't talk to him anymore. And they will bring him back later. Nobody's going to believe the guy. So why he's got a YouTube channel? Nobody's going to believe him. I mean, that could be how they think. Who knows?
But it's been proven that even with shadow people are attracted to people who have severe depression, high anxiety, that sort of thing. So I mean, it's not just ETs that sense this stuff. I think it's spirits and entities like shadow people that do the same thing, and they just sense it.
Yeah, they feed off the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And who knows what light spectrum these things see in also, right? Like I was saying, maybe they see your aura.
Exactly.
Because we're also We're also I'm thinking of Amber and Amber Turd because that's all I watch for the past couple of days.
I was going to say that.
But who knows? Like I've heard before that there could be an entity standing right before me right now, and almost in our dimension, but not. And I can't see it because we see in 3D. Who knows if they see in 5D? If they see things in color formation, we don't know any of that stuff. There could be an entity standing right in front of me right now, and I can't see it because it's in another dimension, but it's just enough in our dimension where he or she can see us, but we can't see them. All those things are possible. Just like, for example, if I use night vision, I can see different things in the sky opposed to when I use a FLIR camera, right? But if I use my regular eyes, I can't see what either of those things do because they're in a different spectrum of light.
Yeah, they have the ability to cloak.
It can be proven with science what I'm talking about.
I mean, it also happens. I mean, this aura thing is really interesting because I feel like if a scientist hears the word aura, they immediately think that's like fairy tale nonsense. But, I like to think about it a little deeper. So to me, when I hear aura, to me, that could just mean that's a word for describing the temperature around your body, the amount of oxygen giving off, the amount of sweat. So to me, an aura could just, because look, the thing is humans, we can't see it, but we're constantly giving off.
Oh no, but
gases.
You can now. They actually have cameras that can pick up your aura now.
Right.
That can see that color combination around you. There's actually,
and then
what do they call them? Full spectrum cameras can pick that up now.
Right.
That aura.
And,
oh yeah.
And it's interesting because animals do it too. So this is very interesting. There's a lot of fascinating things that we could do, but sometimes we don't need a machine to do it. Sometimes we could do it with our bodies, like snakes. Like there's venomous snakes that have a heat pit, so they can detect heat. It helps them catch prey. So I mean, that snake is getting the aura of the mouse, which is a heat signature. So it's possible to have these adaptations biologically, not just with a machine.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. Sure. Lions, for example, see in night vision, right?
Plants give off.
Yes.
Even plants. They did a scientific study where they put plants in a room and they only allowed sunlight in one corner of that room, and then they would alternate it, and they would keep the plant as far away from the sunlight as possible. And every time in that 5-hour period, wherever they had the plant, it would lean towards where the sunlight was. So like from another side of the room, how did it know the light was on the opposite side? Or they got a Japanese scientist that studies water molecules. He takes water and he'll play Mozart, Beethoven, and kind words to the water. And under a microscope, he'll watch the water crystals turn to beautiful pixels of snowflakes and different crystallizations of the water. And then he'll take another water bottle with same water he got from the last time, bottled distilled water, and he'll play it with Metallica and having somebody cursing at the water, and it turns into a solid blob. It doesn't make that beautiful crystalline formation. So just like you, or like everything has a positive or a negative reaction response to it. It's almost as if everything's alive and you can get a reaction from anything. You know,
I've
cutting
always
away.
thought about that. Thought that study with the water was fascinating.
right? Are you seeing
I'm,
that?
I'm,
Isn't that amazing?
I'm one who believes in auras, but this camera that you're talking about, has it been proven to be correct?
Oh, Damien, I'm no scientist. I don't know. I'm just like you, man. If I see it on TV and I watch it, I'm like, this is awesome. Look at what they're doing, right? That's how I seen it. You know, I never broke it down and studied it myself, but I did watch where they did have that full spectrum camera and they were taking pictures and watching the light change, the aura they were calling to change around this guy. So that was pretty wild to see.
Wild, do you know anything about that?
I mean, what I think is that I haven't heard about that, but it sounds very
It was
possible.
on Ghost
I don't see-
Adventures, to be honest with you. You familiar with Ghost Adventures? Zach Bagan and them? I'm almost
familiar
positive
with
it's on one of their episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it kind of just reminds me of like the really creepy airport scanners that we have now, where like somebody can see my junk perfectly.
You
when
can
I go
see
to the
right
airport,
through
you
your
know?
body. Right through your
Yeah.
body. They wouldn't let me do
So-
the wand. I was like, I'm going to go off in the metal detector. I got a fake shoulder. I got pin screws here. They're like, yeah, this guy's smuggling dope. Put him in the machine. I'm standing there like this. I'm like, there's nothing in me but fat meatballs. I swear to God. But, they see everything, man. They see everything.
Yeah.
They see everything with that
Everything.
machine. It's crazy. And we don't know what the after effects of going through that machine radiation wise or what that's doing to our
Right.
body. But, they demand it.
Honestly, we don't know the after effects of having a cell phone, to be honest with you. I'll just tell you right now, don't put your cell phone next to your testicles. That's a warning that used to come with cell phones. And you shouldn't do it.
Really?
Honestly, cell phones, we don't know what's going to happen with cell phones. We could all have, I'm not going to say anything else, but we don't know what's going on with cell phones.
Would it
Well, the
stop,
simple fact that
Stop
it
your-
emits
Your
radiation.
phone down there.
would it
turning
stop
it on
you from having
vibrate.
kids? Would it stop you from having
No.
kids? 'Cause if that's the case, I'm sleeping with my computer, my cell phone, my wife's. They're all going on my lap when I go to bed. Just saying.
So, what's everybody's final thoughts on the Betty and Barney Hill thing?
I think it's probably one of the most possible ones that has happened that we've heard of. I think there's more evidence there than there is for a lot of other ones. I kind of believe them.
Definitely.
I do too.
The Zeta Reticuli map brings a lot of credibility to the game for me. How she was able to draw that out perfectly, and then years later match it to that exact star system. I know that just lended a degree of credibility to me that I don't think could be matched.
Excuse me.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Anthony.
And they're
They didn't have that was an unknown star system to us. They had no idea about it allegedly until then.
Yeah.
And that's wild if you ask me.
Anthony, I
Kim,
was
what are
going to
your
ask you.
thoughts?
Go, Kim, and now I'll ask Anthony. I'll ask you later, Anthony, after Kim goes. I have a question for Anthony.
Oh, I was just going to say the simple fact that they were coming off of their honeymoon, they were happy. What's the odds of them creating or manifesting this whole story, and then having all of this this proof to come back with? That's just nuts.
All I'm gonna say is when I was on my honeymoon, aliens were the last thing I was thinking of. So
My point.
right or
my
wrong,
point, my boy. Right.
I think that's the only
Anthony-
time I didn't have a camera in my hand outside.
You have a lovely family, Anthony. I love seeing your
Thank
family
you.
photos. I'm so happy
Thank
for you.
you.
Anthony, I was going to ask your perspective as a former law enforcement. So I know you think they're credible, but from your law enforcement training, what about their case, law enforcement wise, do you think makes it credible?
Star map for one, damage to the vehicle. People didn't damage their vehicles back then, or anything they owned for that matter. You know, like ripping the strap off his binoculars that were probably $100 back then. You know what I mean? People just didn't damage their personal belongings back then. Is one. They were an interracial couple back then, which was bad enough. They were a target to begin with. Why would they want to label themselves as crazy UFO nuts on top of that? Why would they want to put themselves in more danger by being the interracial couple that also believes they were taken by spacemen, right?
Yeah.
They're just
More
making a
stress.
big red target on themselves then, right or wrong. So I don't think they wanted to, and on top of that, their actual families, mom, dad, uncle, aunts, cousin, were under the strain that, oh, my daughter married a black guy, my son married a white woman. You know, those families were probably had that constraint back then going back and forth. So why put the burden even further on their families? Now you add in aliens and abductions and what they did to Betty and Barney into the whole mix and bring that whole bag of drama into the family, right? You would only turn everybody away from you unless it was really, really, they really believed that it happened to themselves. I mean, that's how I look at it. There was no financial gain out of any of that either, right or wrong?
That's true.
No.
So why come up with that whole charade and not make anything out of it and just paint a big red target on yourself? I just
Right. Keep it up for so long.
We had mentioned Travis Walton case earlier. They had incentive to create this story
look,
because
Travis
the
Walton,
financials.
Travis Walton and his best friend, when they were kids, they used to run around the neighborhood saying they were abducted by aliens. It was like it was almost a joke when this whole thing blew up and came out. As they got older, they knew they could perpetuate a story like that and gain notoriety from it. That's why they did it. You know, all these people say they didn't make any money off that story. Bullshit. I see Travis Walton T-shirts. There's books. There's movies. That guy's at every UFO conference there is. There's financial gain to be made there. He's probably charging $50 for an autographed photo. You know, Betty and Barney never did that, right or wrong?
Right.
I've never seen Betty and Barney on a show back then, like the History Channel or whatever they had going back then. You know, but I don't even know if they had paranormal shows or anything like that. I'm sure they did, but you never seen them or heard of them doing anything like that. So
no, you know what they had back then? They had Fate magazine, and that was pretty much it. You know, so it's not as though they were even if they wanted to, they couldn't have made a lot of money off this or any money.
Bottom line, at the least case scenario, they saw something that scared the living shit out of them. At bottom line, you know, it could be something that was landed in the street that they drove right up on and was right in front of them and really scared the shit out of them so bad to the point where they thought that, oh my God, you know, we're like 10 minutes late, an hour later, whatever. They definitely took us. They probably definitely did all these weird things to us, you know. Betty, oh my God, your dress is ripped. Oh my God, your binocular strap is ripped. Oh my God, they took us. You know, they could have drove themselves into a state of hysteria like that too back then by seeing something so phenomenal like that they couldn't explain also. You know, who's to say we weren't there? But the map, the star map is the key to everything. How the hell did she do that? How did she even figure that out back then?
So, final question here. Do you think it's at all possible that it was government and these memories were implanted?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think back then.
I hadn't considered that, but to give my summary on Betty and Barney Hill, because it kind of relates to this idea that you're saying. It's very interesting. So that specific instance, do I think the government implanted false memories? I don't know, but I wonder if the government might have been involved. I don't have any evidence, but this is my bottom line for Betty and Barney Hill. Much like Anthony, I believe them. I believe their story, the way they tell it, is genuine. I believe they're being honest, but I'm not sure if those things actually happened. I mean, I think both can be true. You know, I don't see a contradiction. I do believe they're genuine. When they're telling you their story, they do believe it. They're not lying to you. Whether those things happened, like they said, I don't know. Could it have been government involvement? Maybe. And honestly, a lot of abduction cases, that's my attitude. My attitude is I believe you. I want to help you because you're suffering. A lot of these people suffer. I want to help you because you're suffering. I believe your story. But do I think it happened? Do I know if it happened exactly like you said? I don't know. There's not enough evidence. maybe.
And I just
And then-
want to say to Frapsap, they did make a movie about Betty and Barney Hill with
Yeah.
what's his
James
name?
Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. But that was way many years later. I don't even think they were alive when they made that movie. That movie was made in the late '80s, if I'm not mistaken, with James Earl Jones back then, right?
I didn't even know they made a movie about it.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but James
didn't
Earl
either.
Jones played Barney, and I
Barney.
forgot who played Betty. But that movie, I think they were deceased already when that movie came out, or very old, and they didn't get any monetary gain from that. I looked that up. They never made anything off anything. You know,
Right.
it was a big story. That's
Not
why
only
people
that, they-
ended up making movies and books and all that shit about it. But they didn't get nothing out of that from back then. The '70s, all right.
They
How
also
old was
risked
Benny?
the fact that. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, how old was Betty when she was taken? Do you remember?
No.
They weren't young. They were like
No.
probably in their late 30s, early 40s when
Yeah.
they got married.
I
And
would
then
say-
Betty died young, if I'm not mistaken. She was only in her mid 60s when she passed away, I think.
Did they ever have any
Maybe.
radiation damage?
That I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
don't
not
even
that I
think-
know
I
of.
don't even know if
I know the car did.
The car?
Yeah. But I don't know about them physically.
But I mean, with them being taken out, and taken inside of the craft or anything like that, I just wonder if they were ever even tested for anything like that then. Because it was
that's
not
a
even
Good question, and I
something
probably
that was
heard the
even thought
answer
about, think so.
before, but I don't remember.
Okay, I got some details here just to get
Go
the
ahead.
dates right. Okay, so Barney he was born in 1922, so this happened in 62, right? So he would have been
61.
61.
61. So he would have been 39.
So he's like 39.
Nobody. I'm not a
That's what I said.
mathematician. If I get these numbers wrong, and then Betty, she was born in 1919, so she would have been close to his age. I can't do that in math.
And Barney died in the 60s.
Barney died in 1969. He was 46,
Okay.
and Betty died in 2004. She was 85.
Okay. So it was Barney that died first. A young, not Betty. I thought it was
Yeah.
Betty, but it was Barney.
So Betty was older than Barney by
2 years.
3 years. So yeah,
3
so
years.
he was 39,
So who
32,
knows if Betty in the future,
42.
maybe she profited. She died when?
She died. Yeah, she
2009?
died in 2004.
2004.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
so maybe later on down the road she did a convention. She showed up at, but she would have been a fossil by then. She would have been in her 80s, right? How old was she when she died?
She was 85.
85. So unless she was
So
going to Comic-Con and UFO Con with a walker signing autographs, then I don't think she made any financial gain. Like, hey, Betty's here. Hey, Betty.
So Betty
Somebody
was
walked Betty in.
42. Betty was 42. Barney was 39. I just want to get those facts straight. Since this is a show about their case, I do want to present the facts.
You like the young bucks, Betty, huh? You like the young stud.
All right, folks. I think we're going to get out of here
This.
for the night. I think we're going to get out of here for the night. Thanks a lot for
I
joining
did
us
it
and
again. I'm
watching.
making you leave.
Classic Anthony. Classic Anthony.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the bell so you get all notifications. We do this every Sunday and Thursday. We recently changed our time slot. So we are doing it at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 o'clock Pacific. If you have friends that are into these topics that we talk about, anything paranormal, anything strange and unusual, make sure to share it with them. We would really, really appreciate it. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us again.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
folks,
you.
Thank you.
I've got a link to his channel dropped in the description. If you haven't seen that and you've been living under a rock, make sure to go check out his channel. Just a fascinating channel. He's got great guests on Always great topics. But anyway, until next time, keep thinking and question everything.